I feel like I talk too much about this. It's a bad lawyer.
Alright, let's wait till everybody gets seated. Alright, thank you everyone for your patience. At this time, I will be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. This time I'll be looking for a motion regarding that closed session.
I will move that the county adopt the recommended trial and settlement strategy of Attorney James Ranta in the matter of Joseph Taphouse versus Shiawassee County Drain Commission, claim number 189714330.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Any further discussion? I'd like a roll call vote on that, please.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Commissioner Webster.
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Garber.
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this time we have a couple of presentations before public comment. The first presentation is by Cynthia Mayhew from the Shiawassee Council on Aging.
Just as a note, you have a recently adopted budget in front of you and the program report.
So, we didn't get the budget in advance because our board just approved it today for 2024. I must have gave you all my copies. Do you? Okay. Thank you. I always say it's a working budget because here we are. It's August and I'm still working on May financial statements from our accountant. So from July, and when I'm putting this together, so it's hard to know what our budget's going to be specifically for 2024. But I can tell you that in 2023 we did receive grant funding from Valley Area Agency on Aging, $654,404. And that is based on units served. So when we send a bill over to the Valley, it's based on what we had served for that month. So it's not like they just send us $654,000 all at once. We also pay the administration fee for the county for having the grants, because we are the organization that holds the majority of the grants. That administration fee is $6,000 annually. It hasn't gone up recently. Hopefully it won't go up for 2024. We have a art program grant. That's a place number of 20,000 because I'm waiting to hear if we are getting that grant and how much that will be. We've had it for 4 years, and seniors have enjoyed having art classes at all 3 senior centers as well as the Shiawassee Art Center. And a lot of our seniors, they love to come back to all the classes, and if all the classes are not the same at all 3 centers, then they're running around the county trying to find the best classes. So some of them are pretty cool. They've done copper, where they take it's kind of like embossing, but they put a picture on copper and paint it. That was one of the neat new things that they did this month in Owasso. We use the county senior tax millage dollars to match that grant, which is a 50% match. So the county funds are going to good use in regards to the arts program. They have had anecdotal feedback in regards to that. One of the gals said that her son had passed away. She started coming, and that's been her therapy. So we do get a little bit of income from that because people that participate are asked to pay $3 for seniors. Anybody can participate, but if they are from out of the county or if they are under 60, they have to pay the full fee, which is $5 to participate. We have an emergency food pantry. The $100 is probably going to end up changing because what it was is we were getting free food for the last few years because of COVID-19 from the food pantry, and they're apt to be, I know that they're going to start charging us again for delivery of that food. So as we order it, we pay for the delivery fee on that. What's great about it is we can get food for programming and for seniors at a much discounted price than what we could if we went to the store to purchase it. Our building rentals, we do have our Morris Senior Center that a lot of people in that community rent for graduations, bridal showers, baby showers. And so most of our building rentals is done out of that location. And we find that Durand, people like to be able to have access to that building as well for different parties. So fundraising, other donations, just a place marker of $2,000. We get fundraising donations from people that are giving memorials. We have a memorial tree in our building that people, if they donate, they get a plaque in memory of that person that they're donating for. Newsletter donations. We ask that people pay $5 if they can to help offset some of the cost of mailing those. Our newsletters are free to us as far as copying and paper. LPI does our newsletters for us, and they do church newsletters. We unfortunately, excuse me, I got dry mouth. What I was going to say is that what's nice about it is we have advertising that help offset the cost of those newsletters. That's why we don't pay anything for them. The congregate program income, $25,000 is a donation that is suggested at $3 for seniors that are willing to give something back. If they eat a meal at our senior center, they are not required. Our program services that are funded through Valley Area Agency on Aging are free to all seniors 60 and older in Shiawassee County. The donation is a suggested donation. Donations dropped off with COVID. So that's why we've got to build that back up again as people are coming back to the centers for meals. The mobile meal program, $35,000 is what we anticipate for donations in regards to that program. Again, these are numbers based on what I've already received and what we've budgeted out for 2023. Personal care income, respite income, homemaker income, those are all in-home services that we go into senior homes to help them bathe, clean their homes, do their laundry, change their bed sheets, mop floors, vacuum. A lot of the folks that are on that program live by themselves. They don't have a caregiver, and so therefore they are trying to stay and remain in their home or their apartment as long as they can. And so we encourage people to donate If you were to go out and get personal care and homemaking in in a private sector, you'd probably be paying over $20 an hour to have somebody come into your home to take care of you. There is a real value there, because a lot of folks that are on them programs can't afford to even pay the suggested donation. The Medicaid waiver is our home delivered meals program, and that is contracted through Valley Area Agency on Aging, who is our My Choice waiver. They give us a service order, and so if somebody that is on the My Choice waiver needs a meal, we deliver them the meals. And they could be under 50 years old, under 60, they could be in their 50s and 40s, depending on if they qualify for a My Choice waiver. And again, they pay us a rate per meal, and it doesn't get billed to the tax millage dollars or the grant funding. That's a total separate funding stream that we have. Transportation, specialized services, we anticipate $51,252 to help support seniors riding SATA bus. We take day trips. We haven't done that since before COVID. We're hoping to start doing that again. They miss going to places like Marshall and eating the turkey dinners and stuff down there. So we're hoping to bring that back. But on my program report, you can see that we paid for 15,018 SATA bus rides, and that's to and from people's homes. And that was actually $58,852 that we received this last year. And we're apt to receive more funding. The issue is that it depends on if there is money left over from other agencies that are on specialized transportation services. If they don't use their funding, then it goes into a pool, and then the LAC for SATA decides on who gets the extra funding based on how many rides that may be over in their grant. And so we are always over on what we're paying for our rides for SATA. Our MAPS program is the Medicaid Medicare Assistance Program, and we don't know what we're going to get because it's based on what our counselor sends into the Medicaid Medicare program. And if the client qualifies, then they pay us based on that person's qualifications. So they always send in the application and see if they qualify. So the money that we get there helps support the MAPS counselor position that we have at the Council on Aging.
Cynthia, can I ask you a question? And I apologize for not asking this earlier today. Which of these things comes from the county millage, these sources of income?
Well, the income is the Shiawassee millage at the top is the source. This is just income. These aren't expenses necessarily.
Okay.
So if you're looking at what does the millage support, it supports all of these grant funds that we get from Valley. We pay a 20% match. And so
Okay.
on the report that I gave you today, it shows you the grant funding that we had received in 2022. For the 21-22, I have units of service, and it gives you the amount of $624,500, and then the SCOA match is 20% of that. It's supposed to be 20% of that grant. That's what we pay. And so the millage dollars not only supports the 20% match, but then it also supports all the overhead, your insurances and liability and
Yeah, I see. Okay.
yeah. So our expenses, outweigh what our match is, but they base the match on what they're funding you. So I always put in there how much our actual costs are, but then they have a percentage of 20% that they want to see as the SCOA match.
Greg, I had a question if I
Please.
could. Under expenses, excuse me, there's 78,000 for MERS.
Yep.
So retirement only 30,000, is that, current employees are in MERS, is that?
Yeah, so, that is for the employee portion of the retirement, 30,000. The 48,000 was for the unpaid liability amount, but that is, actually, we probably will move that, and we're gonna see how much we, owe to keep it, but we are at 84% paid liability for the Council on Aging, which is unheard of for municipalities, but we're not a municipality, we're a nonprofit that got grandfathered in to that program. But we do put it in there because if we do have to pay something, if we have money at the end of our year, we wanna pay something into the unpaid liability, so,
So that plan is still open?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a board decision that was made to keep that plan in place. So that has been reviewed. Because our employees are putting money into it. And in the past, we didn't see a whole lot of turnover with people that were in those plans. But with the way things have changed with employment these days, you do see people coming and going. And so a lot of people that are paying into it aren't even staying to be vested into that. So we are gaining that benefit by them paying into it, but we are, they aren't vested, so they're not gonna get to partake of the pension when it comes to retirement. They lose
People who
that.
aren't vested don't get their money back when they leave.
If they're not vested. They can get their money that they pay in, but the money that's.
Match your match.
Yeah.
Got it. That's
And
what I
that's,
thought.
yes, so that's why our liability, unpaid liability gets
Mm-hmm.
raised is when people leave and the money's there that we've already paid in. So, yeah, again, it's a working budget. I didn't know when I put this together what we were until I called and talked to MERS and they said, yeah, you guys are at 84%. I was like, wow. So, that was news. Do you guys have any other questions about the budget?
Anyone, questions, comments, anything?
Just note, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So next month, you will set the millage amount for SCOA. In the last several years, you've been, because of Headley, because of other rollbacks, you've been levying the full amount. And they send us reimbursements, and then we pay them on a reimbursable path. And anything not spent at the end of the year remains there in that account, so.
I had a question on this page right here. I think this is your services list.
Mm-hmm.
What is the information and assistance category?
That is anybody that is coming in and looking for services in the community, whether it's housing. Sometimes they come in looking for what kind of nursing homes are available or assisted livings. Sometimes it's respite that they're looking for, or hearing aids, or sometimes we get people, they don't have a foot doctor, so they're wanting to know where's the local foot doctor, So anybody calling in or coming in, we get families that call in from out of state because their parents are here and they don't know what services are available.
So it's basically an information service. It's questions being asked, not an actual service being provided then.
Well,
Right? Not a physical, you're not handing them food, right? You're answering a question.
yeah, we're
Okay.
answering questions or we're handing them brochures.
Sure.
It might be that anybody that wants a handyman list, we pull that off the computer and send it to them.
Okay.
So yes, but we have to, it's anybody that's answering the phone or coming in and we collect all that data.
Okay.
Yeah, for Valley.
It looks like about $4 per request when you really add it up, so. You get a
What?
lot of, it looks like, I'm looking at this actual unduplicated units of
Yes.
service. I assume that is budget speak for how many people are requesting information. You got about
Yeah.
10,000, so it's running about $4
Yeah,
for
it's-
each.
I mean, we don't get a whole lot of reimbursement rate for that.
But a lot
Yeah.
of calls.
Yes, yep. A lot of people asking, and it's 3 senior centers, so, you know, we're not just Owasso, it's
Mhm.
Durand and Morris as well, so.
The flip side of that equation is, if I did my math correctly, 8.5% of the seniors in Shiawassee County consume 93.8% of the grant funding. So if you remove the information and assistance category, the questions there, right, the questions that are being asked and answered, the meals, the personal care, the in-service, the case coordination, home injury control, respite, shore services, that the people that, the unduplicated clients is 8.5% of the seniors over 65 years old in Shiawassee County.
Yeah, I understand that, because it's inflated, the number of people for information assistance is a little.
Yeah, that's your,
Yeah.
by far,
Yeah.
you've reached the largest number of individuals with that service.
Yes,
You know,
yeah,
but that service consumes one of the, only 6% of the actual funding cost. The rest, the vast majority, almost 94% of the funding cost goes to those 8.5% of the seniors that take advantage of the meals, etc.
and as you know, the population is growing in Shiawassee County, and any of you that have read the ALICE reports through United Way, 50% of our seniors in Shiawassee County are below the threshold for what they consider the ALICE income for poverty. So, and housing, quality housing is an issue in Shiawassee County. So, and affordable, quality and affordable, and so.
I am curious in general, because I don't really know a lot about your services, to be honest.
Yeah.
Are some or most of these services income-based, or are they all simply a matter of if you've hit 65, these are available to you?
60 and live in Shiawassee County. It doesn't have to be income-based at all. And that's one thing I do share with seniors, that, I don't need a meal. Somebody else needs it more than me. And I'll say, well, how many years have you been paying taxes to live in your home? Well, over 40-some years. Well, you've been paying it in for somebody else to use it. It's time for you to use it. And so they look at that and they go, oh, I guess you're right, So sometimes it takes a lot of convincing to tell somebody that, here you are pinching your pennies so that you can buy your prescriptions and pay your house payment, not payment, but utilities and so forth, and your rent that they're paying, and so if we can offer you a meal, or we can offer you some help with your cleaning, that will save you in the long run, because we can give you something to quench your hunger. Even the emergency food bank, the food pantry that we have, has seen a lot of people during COVID, but we do still see quite a few seniors on a regular basis. And they do it once a month. They come and get a box once a month. So.
And are the people you serve, is that a thing that is the actual names and so on, is that a thing protected under HIPAA?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard when you've got a driver that knows people, and all of a sudden they're walking up to that person's door, but the thing is, and then they see you in the store, and and they don't realize that you're not really supposed to be talking to them about their service, and all of a sudden they're asking you questions, and you're in the grocery store. But that's okay, because they started that conversation. So so,
Understood.
yeah.
Other questions?
How many employees does the SCOA have?
We have 40,
40.
yeah. Most of them are part-time,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's more than I would have thought. Good question.
Yeah,
How many full-time employees do you know?
we have 7,
Okay. So 30 part-time.
yeah. We recently were reviewing the wages, and we have part-timer people that are working like 25 hours or less a week to deliver meals, and they get a mileage for every mile that they drive, but they also get a wage. And after a while, they do it for a while, and then they decide their car's getting too old and they can't afford to buy a new one, so then they decide to rethink the position. They love what they're doing, but trying to keep somebody in that position, there's constant turnaround seems to be in that because of the job and how much it wears on their vehicles.
Other questions? Thank you for your time, it was very informative.
Well, I also have another thing I wanted to bring up today. We have had some dialogue with Eric and with Dr. Boggs in regards to what we can spend senior tax dollars on, and we were told that we could not spend it on property that wasn't the county's. And my concern is that there is actual opinion from the Attorney General that says we can't spend the money on our buildings. And I'm just coming to the commission because I don't think many people know about the conversations and so forth that we've had. And that we've had one invoice denied.
Are we okay to discuss that tonight?
If you so choose. The Board of Commissioners has received an opinion from legal counsel based on the opinion from her legal counsel. And I'll turn it over to Eric if you guys want to talk about it.
Well, I mean, you've got the memo in front of you, it's confidential. I guess the point is,
No, we don't.
It was emailed.
It was emailed to
Yeah.
everyone.
Oh, do I have it? I have it.
Just give us a little background on what.
yeah, so the
issue is.
issue is what can be appropriated, what can't be appropriated for senior citizens villages. There is an Attorney General opinion out there that says, so the issue that we're looking at is what is a public purpose for using funds, and the question is, what happens to capital improvement? What happens to capital improvements that are paid for by the county that go into a private building that we never get back? And so there's an Attorney General opinion out there. It talks about what the Attorney General at that time thought was a public purpose, and talks about some of the concerns that come out that can go along with that, namely that there could be a situation where that money is expended and it's never returned to the county. Everything else that we're spending money on is that we're reimbursing is for services, it's for programmatic things, and everything that supports that. The other thing is it's up to the county to appropriate the funds, right? And so the county this county board has to make a decision on whether they want to appropriate funds for a certain direction. So to my knowledge, all we have is a reimbursement request for architectural services. So I don't know where that goes. I don't know what it's a part of. I see that you're also planning a $1.9 million renovation to that building. Is that correct?
I am asking for a Michigan Community Center grant for that.
Okay, so
Doesn't mean that that's what we're spending our money on.
I think
Because
the point is we don't
obviously,
necessarily know what
Right.
you're spending your money
but you can see in the invoices that what they are expended for. And so my concern is that in our agreement, you know, it does state that it's permissible of an opinion issued by the Attorney General. And she clearly states that it is used for that. Now, there is a clause in there that says, you know, you as commissioners could say, you know, we'll let you spend it on that as long as if you sell your property or you dissolve your organization within so many years, then you will repay the county back for those dollars that were spent. I mean, we've been spending money on buildings for forever. This was never an issue, and I don't know why it was brought up that it was an issue. It's never been an issue.
Probably it was brought up because over the last handful of years, our county coordinator, Dr. Boggs, has done an excellent job at pulling together a lot of our finances and looking at what we should and shouldn't be doing. And this has come on the radar. I assume there might have been some things in the past. My understanding, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Attorney General's opinion says that we can approve such expenditures, and we can require this is one where I wasn't sure what the Attorney General's, but whether it said we can request a guarantee of repayment or whether we must request a guarantee, because there is this issue that we hit on the land bank law fairly frequently on unjust enrichment. You're a private organization, these are public funds, and it seems that approving such things with no legal restrictions is a recipe for mischief. And I'm not saying that any of us, that this has anything to do with that. What I'm saying is it seems rather open to me. Is it, Eric, that we can or we must insist on such an agreement for repayment?
Well, I don't see why you wouldn't, but
Right.
again, this is, the other point is that there seems to be a perception that the county board has no role in appropriating these funds, that just when the millage comes in, I mean, even in your budget, you're just allocating the entire millage payment to, and that's just generally not how it's been on a reimbursement basis, right? And so I think the other thing is if you're gonna do something like this, it seems like it would be reasonable to consider, what's the plan? You know, what is this actually going towards? Do you want to appropriate the funds above and beyond, you know, what the normal course of dealing has been between the parties? And paying for fixes, paying for, you know, maintenance and all that, that's entirely different than a capital improvement.
Hey, you know, Morris, to put a parking lot in $26,000. Would you like seniors falling and suing us because we have holes? I mean, that's the kind of expenditures that are normal expenditures, but they're outrageously. To put a new roof on, it's gonna cost you, you know, quite a bit of money.
I guess and Dr. Boggs, maybe you can help me out with this, because I'm not all that familiar with the relationship between ourselves and her organization. Because it's funded by a millage, I don't know what else your organization does other than this. If I hire a roofer, I hire him to do roofing, and he doesn't come to me and say, I need a new, you know, air hammer,
Right.
so I'm going to add that to your bill. So this is I'm a little uncertain here as to where we are. Does your organization exist solely for the purpose of distributing this millage? I'm not sure where it is that you're a private organization and you pay for your own stuff as part of the contract with us.
We have different funding streams, but the majority of our organization's expenses are covered by the millage. I mean, if we didn't have that senior millage, we wouldn't be able to support 3 senior centers in Shiawassee County. So, you know, my thing is the building that we acquired for $1 from the city was built in 82. It's so out of code. We have no fresh ventilation. That was discovered after COVID, and now that the codes have changed for how much ventilation you can have, we have no fresh ventilation in there, and the kitchen is totally out of code, and there's no ADA compliance in the restrooms. So when we look at what that figure encompasses, they're looking at over 600,000 just in mechanical in that building. But when we looked at, as an organization, looked at moving, we looked at several different properties. It was still going to cost us $400,000 or more to buy a sizable property that was going to work. And then you still have to do the renovation. So you're better off putting the equity back into what you already have, if you can. We did get an opportunity to explore the middle school over in Owasso with a developer that is a nonprofit. We would have been able to acquire 14,000 square feet, which would be a whole lot more than what we currently have, and probably put the same amount of money into that. They did not get their funding that they thought they were going to get, so that's been tabled. So we are, until we have funding.
I think Dr. Boss wanted to jump in here.
So I guess the long and short of it is, and I think Cynthia touched on it, is that renovating the building creates equity in the building. That equity in the building is held by the senior center, or SCOA, because they're not part of the county, but they build that equity with money from the county to do it. So I think that there's two things the board needs to consider. One, do you want to use any of the money or allow any of the money to be used for capital improvements and such? And two, do you then want to attach any conditions to it? I mean, I think it's the price of the upgrades, the price of parking lots, those are all well and good, those are all expenses related to running a business, but I think you need to determine whether or not you wish to allow it for capital expenses, because it says you may. I don't have the authority to grant that, and as I read the contract, I don't have the authority to approve those expenses, which is why they've been denied. That's a decision the board needs to make first, and then second, if that is the direction you wish to go, what kind of, what would you like us to negotiate with SCOA for options that prevent unjust enrichment?
And here's, a bit of a larger picture, what I don't understand with any kind of a contract. Again, going back to, for instance, with the land bank, we get certain monies in to do things, and we charge an 8% administrative fee, and for that 8% fee, we pay salaries, we pay all sorts of things out of that. Wouldn't a contract like this normally have some sort of a fee or a percentage with which SCOA then would decide? We don't have any input on what you renovate, what you buy,
Right.
or anything else. So kind of a general expectation that whatever decision you make, we'll approve seems odd to me, rather than we say,
But
here's
that's
a
not
certain-
even in
here's a
the,
certain
that's not
amount.
in the agreement for you.
I'm asking about the thought on why we have an agreement this way. Maybe there's something I don't understand, why there isn't in an agreement a certain amount that you charge with which you will take care of these whether it's capital improvements, salaries, etc. Is there a reason the contract isn't more, I would say, standard like that kind of thing? This seems a very odd system to me, where they make spending decisions on capital improvements and we approve them.
So go back to what Cynthia had said about MERS and the fact that they were grandfathered in when they became a nonprofit organization. So at one point they were considered a component unit, correct, of the county. And so things have functioned differently over the time. Do you know when you were incorporated as a 501c3?
Like 72.
I'm sorry?
72?
Well, when were you spun off from the county as no longer a component unit?
I don't know. I've been looking for that information. I have not found it.
So I think some of this is an artifact of what they were at one time, how they've changed over time, and how we've gotten here.
I didn't know the history.
Yeah, and I don't know all of the history of it. I'm just assuming that that is how we've gotten to this point, because Eric and myself, when we redid the contract, based it largely on the previous contract, which was similar to the previous contract. But then sometime just before I arrived, Maynard Castarian removed SCOA as a component unit under the audit process for the county because they were included in our audit, but they're no longer included in that. And so the distance has grown further and further from when they were under the county umbrella at some point. So again, I think the issue is, and you probably we don't need to discuss it today, but we do need to discuss it, is do you want to take on capital improvements or allow them to do so? And if so, what are the terms and conditions that this board would like? It's not prohibited, that's as the opinion states, but it is a may, not a shall. It's not in the contract, so you need to determine what direction you want to go as a board.
Can we set up a small committee maybe to take care of coming up with some terms and make this an item to consider at a future meeting?
And further discussion, I suspect everyone's gonna wanna weigh in on this. I definitely see with the history and everything, we're gonna have to sort a few of these things out before they get worse.
Right, so we're being asked, this isn't really, this goes beyond the presentation. We're being asked to overrule the decision by our finance director, our county coordinator, and our legal counsel.
I don't think that that is exactly the case. What I'm hearing from Dr. Boggs and from Eric is that they aren't, as Dr. Boggs doesn't have the authority to do this, but we can set whatever restrictions that we wish to make. I think it's more than this one particular bill, which was not huge. It was.
I don't remember what the architectural firm was, 17.
It's NJB, and it was 8,000.
It's not huge, but it sounds like, especially given some of the things you're talking about, that this is going to become a much bigger issue going forward, and we better make some decisions. Gary?
Yeah. I guess I don't want to talk negative, but you said it comes from the millage, and with everything going up in price and everybody wants more millage, what would happen if the millage didn't pass?
If the millage doesn't pass, we would be able to continue our contract with SCOA until the fund balance ran out in the account, and then we would no longer be participating at all.
What would happen to SCOA then?
They're technically a 501c3. So I think this
I don't want to get negative, but I mean...
No, that would be up to the board.
I don't think that's likely, but I think this is going way beyond
It is,
presentation.
and I would like to perhaps consider Arlene's suggestion, and maybe a couple of you, I can contact you and see if you'd be willing to have a discussion. We can put it on the agenda for next month or the month after, whenever we're ready, and have a much more in-depth discussion of that, if everybody is agreed.
Yeah, I think at a later time, a special
Commissioner
meeting.
I think the initial question we have to face is though, because as Dr. Boggs points out, we may provide assistance for this if we desire. We need to first decide, is this something we want to do? And then if we decide we do want to do it, then it raises the issues of the conditions. And it seems to me the Attorney General's opinion is permissive, so we could do it, but we take on that, I think, the way I look at it, we take on the responsibility of protecting the county's interest vis-a-vis the 501c3's interests and so on. So we would have to spend a lot of time working on it. So that's where I support Commissioner Webster's concept, but I think the first question for us is, do we want to get involved in this at all?
Well, that's one of the things I think has to be discussed further. It sounds like I already have 2 volunteers for a committee.
I think it needs to be a full board decision.
Well, we will. I just thought perhaps a group of people who want to can start to iron out details and bring up questions. We absolutely need a full board to discuss these things. But there's probably a little bit of preliminary work that could be done by a smaller
Bring some
group.
better information to the board maybe.
I mean, because you have, back to the history, we have 2 board commissioners that have always been appointed to the board as well. And then also, the bylaws are, you know, people from different cities and villages, there's so many that are appointed to our board, so we don't even, get our own board members. They're all appointed. They're, you know, except for like the senior centers that have senior representation.
Those are your bylaws.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So all this stuff stems from the very beginning, and nothing has changed. And there's, you know, when I first started, I was like, well, what reports do you want? You know, and so there became more information with Dr. Boggs's and Eric in regards to this is what we would like to see. I appreciate that direction because I think that I should know what you do expect. So,
I think we need to wrap this up. We do have another group that needs this room in an hour.
okay.
So
I
thank you
apologize.
for your time, and you can be certain we will be looking into this, all of this further.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Shelley Akanicki. Shelley, hold it under an hour, please.
I'm gonna really try to keep your time here as valuable, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Homeless Angels is the first shelter in Shiawassee County. We are open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Our shelter consists of 2 family rooms and 2 dorm rooms holding 10 men, 10 women. We are the first shelter in the county, opening in October 19th of 2019. The shelter is ran myself, volunteer director, and I'm part-time case manager along with part-time social worker. And we also have 2 full-time night staff. Our front desk is ran 14 hours a day by volunteers, which is a lot of work, but we make it happen. We have some pretty amazing people. Year to date, we have served 10,613 nights in shelter, 148 adults, 34 children, and of those 60 adults and 18 children have gained permanent housing. We are a donation-only shelter, which is unique to the state of Michigan and maybe even our nation, meaning that we only operate through funding that is monetary donation. We do not take government funding or any government grants. We are able to kind of create our own case management through that by being able to meet our people where they are and taking the time to best understand how they became homeless and how we can best help them in preparing to become successful in sustainable housing. Our people do not come in with an out date. That's one of the greatest challenges that we have with our grant funding through the state government. Most shelters have a 30, 60, or 90-day out. It's stressful enough having somebody come in homeless and trying to figure out, especially if they have a family, that they have to figure this out in 30 or 60, 90 days. And again, with the challenges as we talk about with housing and such, and funding, it's never typically done in 90 days. So that's been what is unique to our program. We have created some great working relationships with our people and our local agencies, local landlords and employers. That would include Catholic Charities, Michigan Works, DHHS, the Veterans Office, Pregnancy Resource Center, Council on Aging, many local churches, our hospital, Recovery Pathways, a couple of different rehab programs, and we also have just local members who support specific needs that go above and beyond what we are able to provide ourselves through shelter. We house individuals also that are part of Judge Stewart's treatment courts, people that are on probation and parole within our county. Typically, most all of our people that come into shelter are from Shiawassee County. We are a very small shelter, obviously. We do have tons of calls today, many from out of county because the shelters in the areas surrounding us are full and unfortunately overwhelmed at this time. We have taken individuals directly in from the local jail, from rehab, mental health hospitals, from our local ER or inpatient floors at Memorial Healthcare. We have taken in individuals from Safe Center after their 90-day stay there. We also take in domestic violence victims if the Safe Center is full, so we have accommodated that too. We have housed 3 adult students from local high schools. 2 sisters that graduated from high school with us also went off to college from us, to SVSU. We have had 2 babies born while in shelter. We currently have a mom that is pregnant, dad and daughter in shelter. That gets our volunteers pretty excited when we start thinking about having a baby again. We have housed many elderly, our oldest being 79 years old. We've assisted our local priest in getting 2 men who are pedophiles to all men's shelter in Lansing through our connections that we have in Lansing, because we also have a Lansing campus. We have sent 31 individuals to rehab, and that number is higher because we only started documenting that 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago. We have housed or assisted 8 veterans, including 2 who were assisted assisted through our local veterans court. They came into court, they were in hospitalized at the time. They were inpatient for treatment, but they bypassed shelter because we were able to get them directly into housing. So 2 from hospital to housing without ever coming into shelter. Some of our veterans struggle with that type of environment because it is communal living. So with PTSD and such, sometimes that's a challenge. But we were able to help and make that happen through our amazing landlords that we work with. We also housed a young veteran. Initially when we first opened, he was with us for about 6 months, and he had 2 young boys at the time. He has now been in permanent housing for nearly 3 years at Kona Villa. We had a family with a single dad who fled an abusive relationship with 5 kids in shelter, who started working along with 2 of the adult children that are in the family, and they've gained sustainable housing for the past 2 years. And we were proud to say that he was proud to say, come back and let us know that he stopped collecting his Social Security disability, which in my time of doing all this work, I've never had that happen. He was very proud that his family was able to do that and continue to stay in their housing. We have had 2 women, and one was a young mom fighting brain cancer. The other one was lung cancer. They stayed with us while receiving cancer treatments in shelter. Both have been successful in housing for a long period of time. And we have a gentleman currently in shelter who is going to be going into housing September 1st that has had 2 major surgeries while staying with us. We case manage people who are not only in shelter. One example currently is 2 young adults just out of high school that found out they're having a baby. They are not in a good living situation, but we've assisted the dad getting employment with machine tool and gear, and we are going to start meeting with them here regularly to work on budget and what that could look like getting into housing, working with our local landlords. All of our people are actually welcome to stay with us on as case management. We have a couple of them that we meet with every month or so that we are their family. They don't have anyone else in our community. They live near the shelter for that reason. So we do continue case management, trying to assure our people stay in permanent housing once we get them there. Finally, I want to add, I read this report, it was shared with me and I appreciated that. We did give our PIT count, which is a point in time count for 2022. It was January, I think like around the 25th. I did share those numbers. They're not in here, so I'm not sure where those numbers are, but I do have those numbers too. I think it's also important to know that our people getting into housing is important, but sustaining it is our ultimate goal, and what that might look like, to continue on with that. Following our people if they choose to stay with us and want to be a part of our family. We have some individuals that do live near us on purpose because we celebrate birthdays and Christmas and Thanksgiving with them. They come hang out, they come get personal care items as needed, and we do serve the community in that matter too. If we have phone calls for food, diapers, any personal care items, our volunteer will deliver them if needed. We do take people to the store on a weekly basis with a van that was donated to us from a church. And some of those people are now in housing, but they still don't have a ride to get to the store. So we continue on those services after the fact. So I want to appreciate your time here, but so I'll answer some questions. I also want to say, though, Commissioner Garber and Holzhausen and Chairman Broder have toured the shelter. I appreciate that, and also Dr. Bobs. You did when we first opened. I'd love for you to come back now because things have changed a lot since we first opened, and welcome the other commissioners to come in too anytime, answer questions. Kind of hard to put that in a nutshell, but definitely tried to do that. So I'm happy to answer any questions or call me, and I'm happy to give a tour.
I do have questions.
Please feel free.
So you said that you're open 24/7, 365. Do you do intake 24/7, 365?
I tried that when we first opened, and it really tired me out. No, I could not do that anymore. We did try to do that kind of at first. I was going to the hospital and such over the weekends and everything. But no, we typically
I have a message in my phone right now for somebody who's trying to get in, and they have to wait 3 or 4 days to get an appointment to do an intake. So that's different than an emergency shelter.
We are not an emergency shelter in that fashion, no.
And I think that's one of the confusing things sometimes in the community is that people think that Homeless Angels as a community is an emergency emergency shelter when, in fact, it's a housing program. You help get people into sustainable housing,
That's the goal.
but you don't necessarily take everybody who's homeless.
If they qualify or want to come in, we do. Qualifying, we do background checks, yes. Violent felon offenders often might not be able to stay. We have taken them in if it's been an old felony type thing, because it's communal living with small children, vulnerable adults. In the communal setting, we share living space. So yes, so like right now, and I think I know the individual you're speaking about, we have had, I can't even begin to tell you how many calls I take every day right now, and I'm trying to keep a list and go down that list. So it's not happening on a dime.
Right.
Nope.
So how many people do you have in the shelter right now?
Are we at? I'm sorry, I don't know it offhand here. Let me think. I just came off vacation this week. I think we're at 13. In the summertime, it is consistently lower because people usually are couch surfing, hanging out. Yep.
Do you keep track of how many families you turn away?
Nope, never kept track of that, and I don't know that I typically turn families away, other than if we only have the 2 dorms, so 2 family rooms. So that would be
So
typically why.
a family might not be able to get in if you already have 2 families.
Yeah,
even if you
that's the
have
challenge.
bunk
Yep.
beds.
Yeah, I can't put them in with the other adults.
Okay.
Safety.
Oh, and I appreciate what you do. I just know most of those organizations you've listed have struggled, as have I. My organization, Shiawassee Hope, probably paid $3,000 in hotel last year for people who couldn't get into Homeless Angels. And so while I appreciate that a shelter exists, I also don't want people to get the impression that there's not a need for emergency shelter here because we have Homeless Angels. I mean, we still could use an emergency shelter. Is that true?
I think at a certain capacity, especially for a warming center would be ideal. We'd had the warming center that really was helpful in those cold winter days and such. An emergency shelter, depending on what that would look like. There's a whole lot that we could talk about in that I don't think we want to talk about right now, but I'm happy to meet on.
Okay.
Because, mixing families with people that are struggling in active addiction versus pedophiles, what would that look
Right.
like?
Great. All right, thank you.
Yep, happy to meet them this time.
Any other questions? Commissioner Emery?
Yes, Ms. Huckabee, that report you have in front of you right there, now that was put out by some group, task force, a Maso area. Task force.
Shiawassee Emergency Shelter Task
Yeah.
Force, yes.
Yeah, and she came and gave a presentation to us. I was concerned about the accuracy of that report, the efficacy of what they said from the standpoint that they were referring to homelessness at various schools. Well, now, the Perry School District is in my district, and they said they had 296 students that were homeless. Well, I think that report covered the year. In fact, I talked to the superintendent, and let me step back a minute. The report is based on the federal law that requires not letting homelessness prevent a student from getting into a school, so they miss on education too. But, so the statute is called the McKinney Vento numbers, which, so supposedly that report said that was McKinney Vento numbers, but in fact, instead of 296 for Perry, for last year, it was 10 to 12. And as far as Moore School District is in my commission district, I think they have 111, something like that. And in
Right.
fact, their McKinney Vento was 5 to 6. And I just, were you a part of that report? Did you, I think the report, at least on that page, is highly inaccurate, and I question the validity of the numbers for sure.
Well, I think when people think of homeless children, that we're gonna see 300 in Owasso, whatever it was, 307 kids walking around the streets homeless. I think that's what people think. The McKinney Vento gauges that in a very different fashion. Obviously, it's couch surfing, it's families doubled up, and things of that nature, living in their van, that type of thing. So I think that's kind of maybe in that, I'm sorry.
Well,
my
their
glasses
numbers
on.
were gross exaggeration.
To what most will consider as homeless in the street, yes, I would agree, yeah.
And I'll say the administrations of those two school districts agreed that that was a gross exaggeration too.
And I don't know who runs
So
it.
can I ask, Commissioner Emery, did you ask about the number of homeless students or the number of McKinney-Vento students?
I asked about what they put in the
Okay.
report.
And that report.
All right, any other questions or comments? I actually probably have several of my own, but Shelley, I'll probably ask you those personally because we are
You know where to find me.
running so short on time.
I'm not hard to
today.
find. Thank you guys, appreciate your
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your coming in. All right, at this time, we have our first opportunity for the public to address the board. I have several slips up here. Paula Brooks is first.
Paula Brooks from Durand, I'll keep it short. Back in March, the county coordinator position was re-upped when that was never filled from back in December. And Brian Boggs decided to stay on. But in one of the newspaper articles, it stated that he would be in that role until August of 2023. With his flex hours and dual employment, is that still the case? Is he staying on, or is he leaving, or what is the status of that overall position? So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mankey.
Yes. We have two. For those of you who don't know, I've been involved in the homeless since 2007. Since 2007, I operated the restaurant from 2010 to 2015, where we served thousands and thousands of meals every year. In fact, we were doing like 65, 70 meals a day, but it wasn't a homeless shelter. You came in and you ordered whatever you wanted to eat. We went back and we made it. If you wanted chicken dinner, we made you a chicken dinner. You want steak, we made you steak. We didn't say you're going to have a sandwich. It's whatever you wanted. Now, so I'm very, very involved in and know how these things work. I will say that there's a lot of organizations that are talkers in this community. They're talkers. They get together, they talk about it, they come and they ask you for money, they come and they ask for federal money, they come and they ask for state money, but they don't do anything on their own. We have two organizations in this county that are doers, and one is the Homeless Angels, and the other one is Crystal Sierra's program, which is Angel Hands Outreach. I was told today she is opening up she doesn't want any of the government money. She doesn't need any government money, but she's opening up their building for housing for this winter, for homeless. Any pastor that has a church can open their church up. They don't need federal money. They don't need state money. They can just open up their church by state law and bring people in. But there are some people who want to be paid, and that's all they care about is money, 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 money. And that's what I see so many of these organizations in this county. There's about 18 of them that get together every month, and that's all they do is they discuss stuff. We have two doers. We have the Angel Hands, which is a program that can't take everybody. They have families. They take care of mothers. They take care of children. Then we have who you'll never see, Crystal Sierra. She's not a politician. She don't care about politics. She don't care about any of this. She's a doer. So she's just out doing constantly. She'll use some obscenities in front of you. She's not polished, but she is real. But I'm tired of the fakes. And consider this a FOIA. I want to see where you spent $3,000 last year for homeless. I don't believe it, and I'm going to ask where I want to see where your organization spent $3,000. Thank you.
All right, let's move on quickly to committee reports. Commissioner Emery, can we start with you tonight?
Yes, I just, we had the tornado in Perry last week. It went from west to east, basically along the railroad tracks. Yet most of the damage was around the city hall and the park, the Veterans Pavilion. store building, part of the roof on that was damaged, but fortunately, none of the houses had real severe damage. Most of the damage was in trees and trees blocking the highway M52. But I did speak to the positive thing I wanted to say. I spoke to the mayor, Sue Hammond, this last weekend. She said the response from the feds, from the state, and particularly the county was very quick. It was efficient, and they were very pleased with the support that we got, including it happened about 7 p.m. The tornado struck between 7 and 7:20 p.m. Friday night, and there were county people out going door to door for searching for in case anybody was injured or so on. So the county, my reports are that the county response was very good. They were very pleased.
Thank you. Commissioner Howard?
Yes, Planning Commission did not meet, but the Parks and Recreation Commission did. They passed the park rules and new bylaws for the commission, and also, of course, being summer, we're continuing improvements in all the parks and trying to improve constantly. So we were also, I believe, not approved for the grant we applied for, but we'll try again next time.
Thank you. Commissioner Webster?
Just very briefly, GST Michigan Works did not meet. SCOA you've heard from today. The health board, I was not at last month's meeting. I know Larry was here last night. We have a lot on our agenda for him. For CCAB, we have gotten some initial feedback on our grant. We are, we do not have a final decision on that. I'm going to provide some additional information to them before a final decision is rendered, but should know the details on that by next month.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Keep it brief. I was at the road commission meeting, and the big thing is the New Lothrop Road Bridge that is currently closed. It's where Durand Road turns into New Lothrop Road going into Byron. That bridge did not pass inspection, and it could be down for several years. More to come. But right now there's detours around you. That bridge is closed.
How bad's the detour?
Well, there's a couple ways to go. You could, before the river, you could go down, I think it's called Laring Road. Yep, and go basically right to the city, but or the village there. And then the other way to go is down Reed Road and out and around. It's inconvenient.
Okay.
So that's what I have for now.
I wanted to thank Commissioner Howard for covering my committees. I did attend the Michigan Association of Assessors, and I'll keep it brief, but more to come on that. I've learned a lot over this past year about the equalization process, which by state statute is the responsibility of this board. I was surprised to find out how much of that responsibility rests with this board. So I'm full of knowledge about that process, and I'll share it with you in the coming months.
So everyone knows, I have asked Commissioner Garber in the coming months if we could have a learning session for all of us, and by that I mean time either before or after a meeting, during a meeting, something, whatever we're allowed to do, where she gives us a Reader's Digest version of what she learned and perhaps some of the responsibilities that statutorily we were required to take on, and we might have been a little slipshod with that. So we'll see about that in the coming months.
Thank you.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes, I'm on the 911 board, and they're still moving ahead with that tower for $2.3 million. It's slow progress. I'm on the SCOA board, and I think we've heard enough about that tonight. So. And I'm also on the mental health board. They're helping all the people over there that need disadvantaged, and they're open 24 hours calling. And I think they're still worried about in Lansing, they maybe like to privatize that. and on SEDP with Justin Horvath, and they've been little problems along there, like everything else. They're trying to get businesses in the county, and some places don't necessarily want some of those businesses, so it's a struggle like every place else. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you very much. All right, Commissioner Howard, I'm gonna turn it over to you for motions.
Absolutely. I move to approve the rehabilitation mortgage discharge for Connie Miller and Timothy Miller of 728 Park Street, Owasso, dated September 10th, 2013.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Is there any discussion on that item?
Just note that there's 2 mortgages on this property and you're discharging both. The second one's the next mortgage.
Good.
It's not a typo.
Roll call?
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes,
Commissioner Olshausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move to approve the rehabilitation mortgage discharge for Connie Miller and Timothy Miller of 728 Park Street, Owasso, dated December 30th, 2009.
Support.
Motion with support. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Webster,
yes,
Commissioner Olshausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes of the August 14th, 2023 Economic and Physical Development Committee meeting.
Support.
Motion with support. Further discussion on the minutes. All in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you, Commissioner Howard. Commissioner Garber.
I move that we approve the model 9-day voting agreement as presented by the clerk and authorize her with the assistance of corporate counsel to execute these agreements with each local jurisdiction.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Discussion on that.
I've had 4 more yeses come
Pardon me?
through from Monday,
good.
so
So what's the percentage that you don't
I'm
have?
at like 97%.
Oh.
City of Owasso, Fairfield, and not Hazelton, which one is it? They're waiting until after my next week's conference, which we will be having training and lots of conversations with the Bureau. So I'm looking to solidify some answers for them, but also waiting on quotes to give them a cost per election kind of thing. And are we getting funding to where the state will pick up the cost for the county to establish, or are we going to have to divvy that out amongst the 21?
Caroline, this is really a hot potato thrown in your lap, and I truly believe you've gone above and beyond to make sure that the county doesn't, descend into anarchy on this. And if I may speak for the county, we really appreciate your efforts.
Well, I think it's the best interest for the voters.
Yeah, I would like to comment on this too. It's a very significant issue, the implementation of Proposal 2 from the constitutional amendments that were referenda here last fall. And it's very important having to do with voting, but the clerk Wilson yesterday gave a very, I thought, comprehensive report on what she's done to implement under state law the very significant changes in our voting procedures in the state. And so I was very pleased with what I heard, but I didn't want it to appear at this meeting, if we just vote on it. There was a lot of work went behind it, and there are other further issues that may come as the state reevaluates that state constitutional provision. But so I want people to be aware of that, and I do think it's in very capable hands with Caroline Wilson.
Thank you. I am working very closely with Eric as well. So we've met, we plan on meeting again after next week.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yeah, I was at Hazelton, New Haven, and they was very supportive of your help, so.
Mhm.
Now, when you take this all on, did you have to take this on like you're doing, or no?
No.
Oh, okay, thank you, I
But
appreciate it, so.
There are a majority of counties that are about our size that are doing this because we just don't understand. I don't understand how the larger areas are doing it, but so many are really stuck on the fact, and I don't mean to make it sound like I don't care about this, but that local ownership of their responsibilities. So each clerk will have to sign up for a day or a day and a half, depending. They will have some skin in the game. There will be costs that they will have to pay, but in the overall mandate of 9 days prior to these major elections in even years, we have to meet. They need one location to go in our county. Why should we open up 21 and they have to get they have to open up another precinct, getting new equipment? I mean, it's just costly, tremendously. So.
Thanks for your effort. Any other questions? In that case, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes. All right, that's approved.
All right. I move that we approve the invoice for the emergency repair of one of the jail hot water heaters.
Support.
Got a motion with support, further discussion, quick 2 sentences on that.
It's a commercial water heater. By the time you replaced it and it paid for the repairs, it was beyond my spending limit. But it had to be done when it went out.
Okay. Further discussion on that? Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
And Chairman Broder?
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the August 14th, 2023 Finance and Administration meeting.
Support.
Motion with support, discussion on the minutes. All in favor of approving those minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the minutes are approved. Commissioner Webster.
Item A, I move to approve the appointment of Teresa McKay to the Shiawassee County Jury Board.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Any discussion on that appointment? All in favor of approving that appointment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that appointment is approved.
Item B, I move to approve the proposal from MAC for opioid strategic planning.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Further discussion on that item?
I've got some questions on that, Greg, and I don't know, I've heard some about this proposal, but my understanding is that we need guidance from our corporate counsel. Do we have that?
At this time, he has not rendered an opinion on it.
So, we don't yet have a good idea
You have
of
MAC
what our rules are
resources.
gonna be.
Well, you have MAC resources so far.
Yes. But Marlene and I were in a meeting with you, and I forget who else.
Amy Dolinky from MAC.
Amy. And she seemed to indicate, at least to me, that we were gonna be relying heavily on our corporate counsel, to help us define what it is we can do before we decide what to do. I'm just, I don't know, what does everybody think? Are we putting the cart? Go ahead.
I think you're gonna anticipate, I think the proposal is a bit premature. I'm not saying it doesn't have merit, but the MAC is heavily involved in this, and they have provided a settlement, dealing with settlement funds and a so-called toolkit. It seems to me that, now we're a member of MAC, and we pay good money to belong to that. I think we ought to take a look first at their settlement funds toolkit. I think that should be our first step. And I think the issue with this is, how do we deal with the funds that are going to be coming to us in the future? I think we ought to implement some of the ideas from that toolkit, one of which is this dealing with the so-called stakeholders in it, which was kind of the thrust of the proposal before us. I think we ought to rely first on our professional people we have in the county, such as the health department people and the court people that deal with the drug issues, get them involved and before we go out to all these stakeholders, who I'm sure have opinions and maybe very valid ones, but I'd rather we initially rely on our staff people that we have, and this toolkit here, if we apply it, deals with all the issues, including involving the stakeholders, but it's, this is based on their experience over a longer period of time, and I would just as soon hold off on this proposal until we get our county staff people that are involved in these issues to have their input. That would help me make a decision in going forward on dispersing these funds.
I agree.
Yeah. So this toolkit and these resources from MAC are provided to us primarily by this staff person, Amy Dolinky. She is the MAC expert on the opioid settlement funds. So to me, it would make sense to have the person who is working with these documents that MAC has provided to come and give us coaching as we do this. I would definitely see our local stakeholders, as I said last night, our law enforcement, courts, and those kinds of things. But keep in mind that those individuals, primarily, except for the health department, our staff typically works with people who have already been in legal trouble for substance use, and that is not preventative measures, which our stakeholders in the community would be able to provide substance use prevention. So to say we should use the MAC tools and not the MAC person who created or at least oversees those tools, when that is one of the free resources that MAC provides to us, is for assistance. That's no cost. It's for her to come and help us and maybe even work with our attorneys. At this point, I don't think there's a lot of guidance, correct me if I'm wrong, about what the county attorney is supposed to do. So I feel like we need her help to be able to implement those things.
But we're agreeing to a proposal which includes a large group of people that want to have input on that.
We're agreeing to get a group of community people together to come up with a strategic idea for how the money could be spent, and they would bring it to us and we can accept or reject their ideas, but it's input only from them.
I think that sets up some false expectations for those people, and I agree with Commissioner Emery. I would rather start in-house with our attorney, our sheriff, our courts, our health director, and maybe this person's proposal would be the way to go, but I think it's premature.
I'm not hearing necessarily from either commissioner, no, but maybe there others who want to speak, necessarily hostility to that. That is not a definite no, but rather maybe I should entertain a motion to table this for a month. And maybe Eric, do you think you could have a better idea for us? At least I know there might be some questions you can't answer, maybe a few more in a month.
Well, I mean, I need to be directed on what, I mean, I'll have to talk to the coordinator.
I'll make a motion to table it for a month.
Support.
I have a motion of support, discussion on tabling.
We would then have to bring it off the table, correct?
Then it would have to be voted to bring it off the table at another time.
And I agree with the chair. Mine is not a great negativity toward the idea of the extended group of stakeholders. I would just like to see us take advantage of our expertise that we have on staff in the county as a first step. I just think going to outsiders is just premature at this point.
I would just note, the motion was to table for 1 month,
Right.
which means that that will appear on the agenda next month automatically. 'Cause that's what you
And
have to
if
make a motion
this
for.
body decides it could be tabled again,
That's up to you guys.
but we can, then it will be on the agenda, so it doesn't have to be voted off.
As Commissioner Emery has stated, it will.
That is the
appear
motion
next
on the
month.
table. That is the motion right now to table it for 1 month.
That's correct.
Can it go on for months and months then? All they're gonna do is just talk about it, so it's not anything that the
Could I suggest that maybe we have a meeting with with the health department, the sheriff, and the courts, and the person from MAC and our attorney, and get their input and bring that back to the next meeting? Can we do that?
We can have that done.
Let's do that.
Well, how is that?
To
I mean,
see,
how does that answer the question of what you can spend the money on?
it doesn't. That's not what our vote is on tonight. We're talking about whether we're gonna work with MAC to do a strategic plan. And the concern about that is maybe we should not do a community-wide strategic plan, but start in-house. And so I'm just suggesting that we have the in-house people meet with the person from MAC to talk about whether that's what they would like to do or do something broader, and bring that input back to our meeting next month.
I don't like putting that on, I mean, I don't think we should direct
No,
these
but
people
we can
to.
request them to come to a meeting.
We can, but that gives us a month to work with everybody's schedules. I don't know, I'm not comfortable with directing other elected
Yeah.
officials and department heads to
I would
do
like to
something.
invite them to a meeting, I guess is all I'm saying.
Request might be a better.
Yep. It's a request.
And
So,
Eric,
what-
I don't think, I
let's-
only mentioned the corporate attorney because at the meeting we had with the MAC person, it was mentioned several times that we would be relying on our corporate attorney to define these things for us better. Now, maybe at this point, there's not enough in stone for you to offer an opinion. It just, I kept hearing that, that's why I was bringing that up.
Yeah, I think that
Is there a time
concern
when
may
guys-
be premature, because I think what I would like to see is what do our in-house people we pay annual salaries and deal with these issues, what is their view? And I don't know that involves the county attorney. He can certainly be at those meetings. My question is, what can we do with what we've got right now, and implementing the, MAC gives us this toolkit to give us a guide going forward. We follow that guide going forward with our in-house people, and then if it appears at some point in the future we need this input from I call them outsiders, I don't mean it, they're within the county, but non-county people, then we can get their input if we consider that necessary.
But I guess my question is, who is gonna own getting input from our own people if we don't have a person working with us on that? Who's gonna be the person who gets the people
I
together?
think we need to ask our people, how do they think, we should ask, Larry John, we should ask the court, the judges, the court.
That's what I think the
How
MAC
would
person
you-
could do, is have those conversations.
I don't have a problem with her doing it, but they work for us.
Right?
And so we should be the one that lay out the confines of what we want them to do.
All right, there's still the question of tabling it. Any more discussion regarding tabling this for 1 month?
I'll make a motion to amend the motion to table it without 1 month requirement.
support.
Just table it, okay.
Just table it.
Okay, now I have,
You
what-
vote on the amendment first and then.
yes, I
amend
have
the
to
motion.
vote on an,
What?
Did Commissioner Garber second that?
Yes.
Yes.
all right.
So, just so that
What
I
was your
understand.
motion again?
My motion is to amend Tom's motion to remove the 1 month timeframe and
We're
just
just
say.
tabling it.
So it can be taken
We have
up by
time.
this body whenever it is voted back on the agenda.
And I have no objection to that.
All right, so,
Voting on the amendment to table.
Well, if Tom agrees to the amendment, then
I think we still have to go through the vote because,
Unless Commissioner Emery would like to withdraw his original motion as well as Brad, and then just reinstitute a motion for the table.
There you go.
Is that agreeable, or do you guys want to vote 3 times?
no.
Withdraw your motion.
Agreeable.
okay, so we now have 1 motion to table, and it is simply a motion to table. If there's no further discussion, then I will ask for I guess, a roll call vote on that.
Whose motion is for the table?
Tom's.
Okay,
He amended his
and
motion.
who is seconding that?
Me.
The table with no
No amendment.
restriction?
Yep.
Okay, just a minute, I just wanna make
I'm
sure.
confused.
Okay.
Come on, Caroline, keep up.
Well, you can't make this stuff up.
Motion is to table.
I got it. All right, Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
No?
Commissioner Holzhausen.
No,
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
and Chairman Broder.
Yes. That is tabled.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Item C, I move to approve the minutes of the August 15th, 2023 Public Safety and Courts Committee meeting.
Support.
Motion with support and discussion regarding those minutes. All in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
We have, the minutes are approved with one dissension.
That ends my report.
Chairman Bruder, I am gonna ask that Commissioner Howard read maybe at least the first one, and I'm gonna step out. I missed a call from Pete Preston. We have ZBA,
Understood.
so I'm just gonna let those people know. I really feel that ZBA is an important board, and I don't wanna waste those people's time.
I understand. I'm hurrying along as much as we can.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Howard, would you take over here?
Absolutely. I move to approve the contract renewal with Shiawassee Regional Education Service District for hearing and vision screening for an amount not to exceed $15,288 and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Motion with support. Further discussion on that item? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes,
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber is excused, and Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move to approve the contract renewal with Shiawassee Health and Wellness for social work services as part of the Perry School's Child and Adolescent Health Program in an amount not to exceed $86,258 and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Motion with support, further discussion on that item. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Emery,
Yeah. Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber is excused.
I'm here, yes.
Oh, you are, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes. Commissioner Garber, did you want to take the
Sure.
helm again?
Thank you, Commissioner Howard.
Welcome.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Shiawassee Health and Wellness for social work services as part of the Durand School Wellness Program in an amount not to exceed $86,258 and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Got a movement with support, further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes,
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Connie Brown for dietitian services in the WIC program and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Got a motion with support, further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Shiawassee Regional Service District for school nurse services in an amount not to exceed $1,080,000 and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Motion with support, further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes,
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the contract renewal with Convenient Urgent Care for sexually transmitted infection services and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
Support.
Got a motion with support, further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Broder.
Yes.
I move that we approve the refilling of a WIC technician at a salary grade 2.
Support.
Motion with support. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the August 15th, 2023 Health and Human Services Committee meeting.
Support.
Motion with support. Further discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, we have a discussion of a FOIA appeal. I think I'm turning this over to our county attorney.
On July 5th, Timothy O'Neill requested the following information from the county: oath of office and surety bond information for District Judge Ward Clarkson. Those documents are not maintained, held, controlled, used by the county. They are held somewhere else. That was the basis of our denial, which followed his request. And then we received, and this is all in your packet, including my memo, we received some emails, and then finally we received a FOIA appeal form appealing our denial. And listed as the reasons for the appeal are human rights violations, wrongful imprisonment, human trafficking, civil and constitutional something, wartime act violations. Mr. O'Neill also included with his appeal some of the documents that he actually asked for. He already has some of them because he went to the Office of the Great Seal where they are maintained and got them. So before you is simply to decide whether or not you will support the original denial, or whether or not you will overturn our denial, although I don't know how that could be done since we don't have these records. So.
District court is one of the judgeships that you file with for the state. The oath is done through the Office of the Great Seal, not through Caroline like Julie's is, yours, and two other judgeships are. It's a unique one.
All right, at this time, I'll open it for spirited discussion among commissioners on whether we should approve or.
I mean, we have nothing to give,
Well,
right?
that's true. I guess
Right.
I need a motion first, excuse me, before our discussion. Someone needs,
So I move that we deny the appeal.
Support.
So there's, so when
if you look at the bit here,
they actually
I think
read
we need to
the,
rephrase it.
Oh,
when do they get those?
I'm sorry. I move to deny the FOIA appeal filed by Mr. Timothy O'Neill regarding his July 5th FOIA request for oath of office and surety bond information related to District Judge Ward Clarkson, as requested items are not public records of the county. Further, move to authorize and direct Chairman Broder to notify Mr. O'Neill of the board's decision by letter.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Is there further discussion on that item?
Fait accompli, we have motions on it, seems to me, based on the attorney's information.
Further discussion? I'd like a roll call vote on that, please. So discussion is the question is whether we should deny.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chairman Broder?
Yes. All right, now it's my turn. I'm not going to take much time, but I think as this is the last month of our summer schedule, I need some opinions and probably a motion as to whether we shall continue with 3 meetings at our monthly board or whether we're going to move back to 4 meetings. Thoughts, people?
You want a motion first?
There you go.
We could have a motion.
I make the motion that we continue with the 3 meetings for the remainder of this year.
Support.
I have a motion with support. Is there further discussion on that?
I'm not super opposed to that, but I will say that there are times when having the Thursday meeting, such as when we had the 911 tower discussion, if we could have said on Wednesday, instead of spinning our wheels, if we could have said, hey, let's move this to tomorrow, and got Sheriff Chapman in here, when I talked to him the next morning, he answered those questions like that. So there are times when, from Wednesday to Thursday, we can expedite things by getting more information. That would, to me, be the only benefit.
And I guess my concern, I'm just anxious about thwarting our constituents' perception that we're gonna be here the 4 nights. I think we've done that. I haven't, but I think the commission has done that for a number of years, and I just am concerned about altering that if people are accustomed to that. That's how we conduct our business.
I don't see where we've lacked anything by going with 3 days myself. There are public notices out there, everybody knows when we do meet. These are the 3 days you can show up, and if you choose to show up, show up. I don't see where we've lacked anything.
Our clerks, I just was going, can I say, have some input?
Why don't we let the commissioner speak first?
Yeah, they used to meet 8 times, and now we're gonna only meet 3. Maybe we ought to do it just 1 or not have any, so. Just do whatever we wanna do, so. Sometimes the people can't make it on a Wednesday or Thursday. I think we should leave it at least 4 days. You know, at least that's what we've been doing for years, and they did 8 times, so we did it 4 times. We're gonna get it down to 3 times, and next it'll be 2 times, so. I think you can just cut things too short.
I have to admit, I have not gotten any complaints. I'm comfortable with 4, but I'm also comfortable with 3. To be honest, I've had no complaints from anyone about, gee, you're not meeting enough. And I know that sometimes we have trouble recruiting people for our various boards and positions because they can't meet the time requirements. So I can see that as a possible side benefit in the future if we kept it this way. Now again, just because we vote for the rest of the year doesn't mean at our organizational meeting next January, we can't change everything back. So that being a wishy-washy response, I'm pretty good either way.
I haven't had any complaints either, but there could be, so it's fine with vote, I guess.
I was just going to give the insight from the other counties when they usually hold like subcommittees during the day, and then they have their big meeting. Nobody does it like 4 days in it. I mean, when they hear that I have a full week, they're like, "Are you kidding?" And I said, "No." But I mean, I don't know of any other county that does it like that.
I've looked at a lot of other schedules, actually, gotten on their websites when I was looking at other counties' websites for our new website. And a lot of them do have that many meetings, but not in 1 week.
Right.
So
They do them during the day too.
a lot of them, I was very surprised because we take a little flack for 5 o'clock. I mean,
Right.
there's
A lot at 9
a lot of them are during the
We
day.
take a lot of flack no matter when the meetings are. It is a very difficult thing.
Yeah, we
Further-
could have them have a Monday morning at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
We
you
could
know.
be the road commission.
Yeah.
And my
I have
7:30
former
road
clients
commission
that
one
did
if you want it.
I have former clients I have former clients who did do that, 8 o'clock meetings,
Yep.
and it is absolutely the discretion of this board to set its agenda and its schedule, and
If you all
That
go
is-
at 8 a.m., I'm excusing myself for the rest of the year.
That's a no-go for me, for sure.
All right, we have a motion on the table about making our summer schedule through the end of the year, that is the 3 days. Could I have a roll call on that, please?
Commissioner Webster,
Yes,
Commissioner Holzhausen,
No,
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
No.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
No.
Uh-oh. Chairman Broder.
Yes.
Okay, passes.
All right, I'm not gonna extend this, we got ZBA. Dr. Boggs?
2 very quick things. Number 1, we're running on time for the courthouse project. Matter of fact, while we're sitting here, I got an email inviting us to the move-in date. And then the second thing, I do want to talk very briefly about something Commissioner Emery brought up with the tornado and the response. And I do want to note that that was all Commissioner Chapman going over there, working, deploying his team.
Sheriff.
Sure.
What did I say?
You said
Commissioner.
commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sheriff Chapman.
I'm not sure if you demoted him or promoted him.
That was all Sheriff Chapman. He and I were on the phone about it as everything was going down, and he was right there on the spot to help the citizens of Perry. So
Good for him.
that's all.
All right, at this time, we have our second opportunity for the public to address the board. Mr. Benke.
Yes, I want to just say on that cleanup down in Perry, I got there, I got in there before they closed the city off, so I had different television stations and different news people reaching out to me to see if they could use our pictures. I thought it was fantastic, the response that was done immediately by all the first responders. It was just amazing. Within 1 hour, they were cutting trees out. And here the DPW buildings were down, but the DPW workers were still out trying to work with other people. They closed off it, and no one was seriously hurt. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I just want to say thank you for tabling that. I will tell you this, the coyotes, whenever they smell blood, and in this case money, they're right at people's heels. They want that money, they want that money. I'm telling you, there's doers and there's talkers. Look out, I would suggest that instead of listening to the talkers that want that money, oh my God, they're lined up. I know these groups, I see them. They're all lined up, they want this money, but they won't do anything on their own to help anybody unless they're paid for it. You gotta have that money, gotta be paid. Well, the doers are out doing it, and they're not asking for government money. But if any's given it to them, remember George Bush, I think it was said that faith-based were better than government-based. They use the money better, they do. These government people, they just want that money. Some might even have a church they can open up right now, but they won't do it until they get government money. So please, I would say take a look at it from the standpoint of if you listen to the talkers, fine, but look outside the box and find the doers and give them the money, and they will take that money and use it wisely. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? In that case, this meeting's adjourned.
Morgan's like, oh yeah.
Almost late.